others over stealing, willfully causing financial loss to the state, and money laundering. A lot later, we're in Parliament because the minority there is demanding the suspension of the vetting of Paul Bafuboni as Chief Justice until all legal challenges concerning the removal of the Chief Justice, Gertrude Tokonu, are resolved in court. Hello there, you're welcome to News Central here on TV3. I am Mawuena Egbeta. Let's get into the stories right now. A pleasure to have you join us. Let's start from the Supreme Court because it has unanimously dismissed a petition as filed by lawyers of Aduboahene seeking to stop the trial judge from proceeding with the hearing of the case. Remember that after many things that lawyers of Mr. Aduboahene have been fighting include a full disclosure of evidence and documents the AG is going to be using against their clients, the High Court had dismissed their claim, and they sought to petition the Supreme Court to hold the trial judge from proceeding with the trial until all of their concerns have been so addressed. But the Supreme Court has unanimously dismissed that application. Let's take you to the courts right now, where Lord Eduasare is stationed to get a bit more in terms of the details. Lord, thank you very much for joining us. Talk to us about, first off, the details of this petition and then the basis upon which the court unanimously dismissed it.
Right, Marina. And so lawyers for the former National Signals Bureau director, led by Samuel Atachina, they had filed the application to prohibit the trial judge in the person of Justice John Eugene Nyante from continuous hearing of their trial. Now, they indicated or alleged bias against the presiding judge. Now, this allegation of bias was based on 4 grounds, and they indicated that, for example, the trial judge blocked exculpatory evidence from being disclosed by the prosecution. And Moina, you mentioned that earlier. Now, at the last time the case was in courts, lawyers of Aduboahene had indicated that some transactions that the prosecution had disclosed had some gaps in them. According to them, the prosecution had intentionally removed certain portion of this document from the entire disclosures, and that portion they claimed would have helped Kemini Amanor and his wife's case, for which reason they wanted the court to order them to disclose those portions. Now, again, they indicated that upon dismissal of the application for disclosure, the trial judge indicated that that evidence or that document that they were asking to be disclosed will not in any way affect the case. Now, some Atachina argue that this pronouncement by the trial judge meant that he was being prejudicial, because how do you say the case will not help our case when you've not made us actually go through that document and put it before the court? Again, another case of alleged bias was that they indicated that, for example, the last time, again, when the case was called, the trial judge indicated that they can't hear the cases on a daily basis based on application from the Deputy Attorney General because his calendar was full. Instead, he would apportion long hours, or in a day, they'll hear a chunk of the case before they progress. So, for example, he indicated that the case will be heard from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. And Mawuena, somewhere last week when we've been going to court, this has been the case for about on 2 occasions. The case has been heard on this front. And then there was another round of bias where the defense lawyers indicated that the judge had allowed the prosecution to cajole or stampede his timelines for decision making. So, for example, if the judge made a decision that he was going to make a decision on a certain ruling on the matter within a certain period, the prosecution led by the Deputy Attorney General will say that he should make the decision on an earlier front, and then the judge would comply and then agree with the Deputy Attorney General. These grounds, the defense lawyers indicated that constituted bias and showed that the trial judge had a special interest in the case, which was to the detriment of his clients. And so he was praying the court to, as it were, take notice or take cognizance of these grounds and then agree or prohibit the trial judge from continuously hearing the case. But in defense, the prosecution, or in this case, the Deputy Attorney General, Dr. Justice Remsai, counter-argued, indicating that in the matter regarding the documents that he indicated they had not disclosed everything, they applied for certain disclosures and they disclosed the portions that they required for the case. And so it is wrongful by the defense to say that they intentionally removed certain parts of the document because they did not have those portions that Samuel Atachian was alleging that they were withdrawing from the defense. By and large, he indicated that Samuel Atachian was misleading the courts and then prayed the courts to dismiss this application. He also indicated that the judge citing the 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. for sitting of the case was just a suggestion because they could not expedite the trial and hear it on a daily basis. And so he denied the fact that the case was heard from 9 to 12. Now, the panel of justices, which was presided over by Justice Avery Lovelace Johnson, was a 5-member panel, Mawuena, I should say. She read the ruling and indicated that the application to prohibit the judge was without merit. And again, it did not meet the threshold to make them prohibit the trial judge. And this was the reason why they unanimously dismissed this application to prohibit Justice John Eugene Nante from further hearing the Aduboahene trial. Now, Mawuena, you recall that last week, Samuel Atachian, in his quest to get the trial judge to adjourn the proceedings for today, pending the determination of today,
dismissed same as well.
Walked out of the premises because he did not get the adjournment. Now, we asked him about it, and today this is the solution. This is what has come out of the court. So he actually addressed that and then gave his thoughts on where he felt about the decision of the Apex Court. We can listen to that now.
I'm disappointed but not discouraged. We'll see how the case will travel.
How does it feel going back to the same court that you...
It doesn't move me at all. The only persuasion a judge will have is the law. I'm not going to have a banter with him. I'm not going to fight him over anything. I'm just going to project the law. It doesn't move me at all.
Are you looking at appealing against this decision?
Yeah, there is a 5-0, so that is a tall order. You mean review?
Yeah.
That's a tall order. So we'll slow down.
Lord, let's return to the trial of Kwabena Aduboahene, which is the subject of this Supreme Court unanimous dismissal. What is the latest on that as well, now that they have to return to that same court, and I heard that question being asked, for proceedings in the matter to continue?
Well, so Mawuena, indeed, the full decision of the court will be made available on November 5th, according to the Apex Court. Now, back to the High Court, where they're back in court next week. We are expecting that the second prosecution witness, the financial director of the National Signals Bureau, will continue to give her evidence in chief when she's done, and then there will be the cross-examination by the defense. And so this is where we are at on the Kwabena Aduboahene case, Mawuena.
Lord, thank you very much for those details. That's my colleague, Lord Ido Asare, with details of the latest from the Supreme Court dismissing the application by lawyers of Kemini Amanor seeking to prohibit the judge from continuing to hear the matter over allegations of bias. The court says the counsel could not produce or adduce enough evidence to substantiate that claim of bias. Hence, by a 5-0 decision, they dismissed the claim. But let's move away from that. But we're staying on matters relating to the court and the Office of the Attorney General and the Minister for Justice, because he has filed a total of 24 charges against the embattled former Chief Executive Officer of the National Food and Buffer Stock Company, NAFCO, Hanan Abdul-Wahab, his wife, Faiza Aduboahene, and 3 others, with a litany of offences including stealing, conspiracy to steal, willfully causing financial loss to the state, using public office for profit, and money laundering. Let's take a closer look at the details of the charge sheet. And we'll do that for you right now in relation to what these charges are. 24 in totality. 5 individuals we know are being charged with counts which include stealing, conspiracy, money laundering, using public office for profit, amongst many other things. And so we'll try and walk you through it on this dashboard right away. And so, like I mentioned, the counts 24, the total accused persons or entities 5, because we know there are some listed companies as well in this. And then the most frequent offense being money laundering, in terms of what the Attorney General revealed as details of what it is that investigations have uncovered, amongst many other things. And so let's start with the CEO, the former CEO of the Buffer Stock Company Limited. He's the main accused in this. He's implicated in 20 out of the 24 counts, and the key charges, amongst many other things, include stealing, 4 counts of stealing, fraudulently causing financial loss to the state, 4 counts as well. Money laundering, we see 6 of it. Defrauding by false pretenses, 2 counts. A conspiracy to commit fraud or money laundering, 2 counts. And then using public office for profit, 4 counts. Faiza Aduboahene is the wife of Mr. Wahab. She is suffering 6 counts of money laundering with Hanan and others, and 2 counts of defrauding by false pretenses amounting to some 9.8 million cedis with Hanan, and then 1 count of dishonestly receiving amounting to some 4.4 million cedis. Again, we know of 1 other individual who is not here, but these are the 2 main suspects in terms of, or the 2 main individuals who are expected to be put before court. Their plea will be taken, amongst many other things, and then upon their plea, we will know whether or not the trial will proceed. But if there's anything to go by, we know that this man issued a statement where he, amongst many other things, on the back of that press conference by the Attorney General, denied flatly any or such allegations had been made against him by the Office of the Attorney General. And so this is what we know in terms of the counts, but there will be a lot more in terms of what it is that is expected in the aftermath of everything that's expected to happen in relation to this particular case. And we know as well that we're yet to get details as to when the case will be called in court, but most certainly something that we'll continue to keep our eyes on and bring you details of. But let's move away from that and take you to Parliament right now, because the minority is this afternoon demanding the suspension of the veteran of Paul Bafo-Boni as Chief Justice until all outstanding legal challenges concerning the removal of the Chief Justice or former Chief Justice Gertrude Tokonum are resolved in court. In a motion filed at the Speaker's office, we understand the NPP lawmakers are asking the Speaker to hold all processes by the Appointments Committee, citing current cases at the High Court and the ECOWAS Court. The Appointment Committee has scheduled to vet the Chief Justice nominee on November 10, 2025. Let's connect right now with Parliamentary Affairs correspondent Christian Yale for a bit more on this particular subject matter. Chris, we know the removed CJ has about 3 pending cases in court. Walk us through, if you can, those cases and what the minority is saying. Hello, Chris, can you hear me? It does appear Chris cannot hear us at this particular point in time. We'll seek to rectify the connection with him because there are quite a number of schools of thought as to whether or not these pending applications in respective courts, some the High Court, some the Supreme Court, amongst others, could be subject upon which the hand of Parliament can be stayed in carrying out its constitutionally mandated function in terms of vetting. And there are those who say, yes, it should. There are those who say it shouldn't. But let's try one more time with that connection with Christopher, or Christian Yale, I should say. Christian, I was asking if you could walk us through what the argument of the minority is vis-a-vis the pending cases of the removed Chief Justice.
About 5 members from the minority caucus have submitted this motion at the office of the clerk to Parliament, making these demands. But just to run through what we know so far pertaining to the pending cases filed by the removed Chief Justice, we know that there is one case that she had filed at the Supreme Court, and that particular case indeed was challenging the removal process by the Puaman Committee. I mean, I've heard a number of lawyers make the argument that that substantive case at the Supreme Court concerning the Puaman Committee's duty is actually moot as of now, because the committee has already finished its work, or part of it, which has led to her removal from office. But we also know that at the High Court, for instance, she has had one case that was seeking to make the case that if the president has removed her from office as Chief Justice, she still has that right to remain as a judge on the Supreme Court bench. But we know the Attorney General had responded to that, for instance, and demanded that that case be transferred to the Supreme Court so that that constitutional interpretation involved in that particular bit be dealt with, as to whether when she is removed as a Supreme Court Justice or a Chief Justice, she can still remain as a Supreme Court judge. And there again, Eric, we know that there is that other case that has to do with her demand that she be reinstated, and also requesting that even the appointment of Paul Bafuboni as Chief Justice and his vetting be put on hold. We know that last week, for instance, during a media engagement with the press corps, that was even last 2 weeks, the minority leader had lambasted the Puaman Committee, describing it as unconstitutional and unfair, the processes that led to the removal of the former CJ. And so this motion that we have cited, which I have a copy of right now, Eric, is saying that in pursuant to Articles 1101 and then 125 to 127 of the Constitution, and also even that of Article 1441 and 146, Parliament should, as a matter of fact, cause the appointment committee to halt any proceedings concerning the vetting of Paul Bafuboni as Chief Justice. And also, as a matter of fact, they are making the case that all of those cases that I've cited at the High Court and even that at the ECOWAS Court be dealt with, so that these outstanding legal battles be dealt with before any possible consideration of a new Chief Justice can proceed. Eric.
And it's interesting that this argument is being made because it feeds directly into further argument as to whether or not pending cases before the courts can stay the hand of Parliament. Has there been a reaction from the majority side to this latest motion, if we can describe it as that, put before the Speaker asking for the suspension of this vetting?
In fact, we look forward to seeing how this is going to, turn out to be, because on the majority side, even from that particular engagement we had with leaders from both sides of the House 2 weeks ago, we know that the majority leader, Mahama Yariga, had immediately responded to the concerns of the minority leader, Alexander Afenyomarkin, and among many other things, Eric, he had indicated that those concerns, in as much as the minority may deem them appropriate, are not sustained, because then we know last week, upon the resumption of Parliament, the Speaker read the official notice or communication from the President announcing Paul Bafuboni as the new Chief Justice, and subsequently making that referral to the appointment committee. In fact, I can confirm, and just like we reported last week Friday, on that particular day, the appointment committee held that backdoor, or what they call the preliminary meeting, to discuss the day and the modalities concerning the consideration of Justice Paul Bafuboni, after which we now know officially that next 2 weeks Monday, which is 10th November, the vetting should proceed. So when you engage the majority MPs from the back door, the understanding is that they are ready. The vetting is going to proceed as communicated and as the appointment committee has indicated. But the minority is demanding, in this memo which I have a copy of, is demanding that the Business Committee of Parliament immediately reprograms the order of the week and cause the Attorney General to be summoned before the House, or any other committee that the House will decide, to provide urgent update on all of these cases that Gertrude Arabe Saba Sakitokonu has filed at the respective court, in the High Court and at the ECOWAS Court, before we can proceed from there. Eric.
Right, and let's talk possible implications, because we know this will come up on the floor for intense debate, and then the expectation is that the Speaker will have to make a determination on this. Are we picking indications that should this motion fail to be upheld by the Speaker, we could see the minority boycott the vetting of the Chief Justice nominee?
Eric, it is very interesting to expect what is going to come out of this, because we know that the minority leader, Alexander Afeomakin, on a number of occasions has indicated that his side would not boycott the vetting of the Chief Justice nominee, Paul Bafuboni. However, with this motion that is, in fact, signed by these respective applicants, we have Anyumedu Entry, MP for Asante Akim Central. We have John Darkon, who happens to be the legal counsel to the minority, MP for Swami. We have Gloria Owusu, MP for Trobo. And then we have Damata Salam Ama Apianima, MP for Efija Kwabre South. We have Alhassan Suleiman Atampuli, MP for Gushegu, and also Kwabena Boateng, MP for Ejuso. These are the 5 of the minority caucus who have filed this motion. These are the applicants, the 5 of them. We wait to see whether the earlier position of the minority leader that they are not going to boycott proceedings would hold, because then repeatedly on different occasions they have made that clarion call that the removal of the former Chief Justice Gertrude Torkornoo was unconstitutional. But should the Speaker fail to grant this request that they are demanding, we wait to see if indeed they would boycott it, but also the expectation that it may even become a matter of debate on the floor, possible today or even tomorrow. Eric.
Christian, thank you very much for those details. That's my colleague Christian Yale in Parliament for us with details of the latest from the minority, who are seeking to have the Speaker and the Business Committee of the House reschedule indefinitely the vetting of Chief Justice nominee Paul Bafuboni, arguing or making the case strongly that they allow all cases involving the removed Chief Justice Gertrude Torkornoo be dealt with in the respective courts before any such consideration can be made. We remain to see what becomes of this motion a lot later in the course of Parliament's business. But we'll remain in the House because the Public Accounts Committee is continuing its sitting and considering the Auditor General's report of 2024. We know right now that the Finance Ministry is present along with agencies beneath it. Let's take you there right now for some excerpts.
Who needs information can come to the fund to verify for themselves, because these are the old staff still in here. Thank you.
Madam, you are discharged. Now let's go to National Development Planning Commission. Are you here? Okay, what about National Insurance Commission? What about venture capital? No, venture. Please introduce yourself to the committee.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Cristiano Tute, Acting Deputy CEO of Venture Capital Trust Fund.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Alex Owusu-Achampong, the Head of Investment for Venture Capital Trust Fund.
Venture capital, let's see here. Yours is not an infraction. We are going to review your financial performance. And the Honorable Seaman will take care of that.
Thank you very much, Chair. Venture capital. So we saw, as I said, according to your financial statement of financial performance, other income from Ministry of Finance for 2023 was 0. In 2022, you got 4,500,000. What accounted for that? Did you have to apply? What accounted for that?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Venture Capital Trust Fund is actually recapitalized by Ministry of Finance and some donations. So we don't really have any dedicated source of funding. So as to when the ministry is ready, they are able to give us what they have. So as at that time, that is what happened. But we've spoken to the current ministry or the minister, and they are very receptive to our plight. So we hope that a lot of things will change as soon as possible. The resetting that the president is talking about was to come down to venture capital as soon as possible with the help of the minister around us. Thank you.
There was a huge dip in other income. 2022 was 29 million, 834,759. But in 2023, it was just 354,409. What accounted for that other income? Down by 51%. That's huge.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. In 2022, like my Deputy CEO said, the Venture Capital Trust Fund was recapitalized through the Ghana Economic Transformational Project, the GETP. And the funds that venture capital received came in the form of US dollars, foreign currency. And so the 29 you see there, a chunk of it, about 95%, is exchange gains from the dollars we received through the project. Thank you.
Impairment receivables, 2023, 2,264,293, as against 847. That's huge. Any explanation, please?
Mr. Chairman, can you please repeat the values whilst I...
Impairment of receivables, 2023, 2,264,293. That's 2023, and 2022 was 847,490. Coming to talking about expenditure, the expenditure column.
Oh, okay.
And in terms of percentage, it was 167.2%.
Mr. Chairman, I think this has occurred in the era where almost all of us were not there, but we have taken good note, say that we will really correct whatever went wrong. We will take a good clue from what you are saying. Thank you very much.
Now let's come to your statement of financial position, your balance sheet. There's a dip in your ratio, 58.3.1. No, that actually increased, which is good. Your current liabilities have decreased, which is good. Your current assets increased. Non-current assets also increased, which is good. That's fine. Keep it up. That's all I'll say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and former colleagues.
Some details from the ongoing Public Accounts Committee. Venture capital, they're going through their financials. Nothing really wrong in terms of misappropriation of funds and some others. But as and when there's a bit more in terms of development there, we'll take you back. Now, the Health Minister, Kwabena Minta-Kando, has revealed that government's new health information system aims at linking all health facilities in the country will cost the country $50 million, half the price of the $100 million for the old infrastructure that never delivered what it was contracted for. Now, Mr. Kando revealed that the company had failed to fully implement the $100 million contract meant to connect health facilities across the country to a digital platform. Speaking at the Government Accountability Series, the minister says government will protect the health data of all Ghanaians in a robust system it is deploying.
At this point, you'd all agree with me that the contract was meant for 3 years and extended to for 5 years for 950 facilities, and you have only delivered 450 facilities. Clearly, nobody needs to tell you that the company underperformed. You all agree with me that it's unconscionable for any individual or company to have access to the medical records, electronic medical records of Ghanaians without the state taking control, without the state having access to it, without having even access to the service. When we took over, we invited the vendor that the contract had expired and therefore they must hand over to the state. And so we needed to understand exactly what we were taking over. So a forensic audit was conducted. And when we realized was that even the hardware, there were gaps in the supply of the hardwares. The supply of computers. If, assuming in the contract is stated that they should supply HP laptops, you go and cheaper brands are supplied. They should supply, let's say, 100. You go and less than 100 is supplied. So there were issues of quality of the equipment or material supplied, and there were issues of quantity, the number supplied. And so upon analysis, you realize that the gap alone for the hardware was not less than $18 million. Again, I have stated that the contract sum was $100 million. At the end of 31st December 2024, although 450 out of the 950 had been connected, the vendor had been paid about $77 million. The software and how we can own the software, the integration, and the middleware. That's what we're dealing with. So we are building on the infrastructure. The infrastructure has already been established. And so we are not going to go back to buy new laptops and what have you. So where we are, when you look at the details of the contract, how much it costs the state to do what we are going to do, we are going to use half. We are going to use half of what they use to do what we are going to do. So I can assure you that there's value.
And that's the Health Minister, Kwabena Minta-Kando. He take us on our very first break here on the Bulletin. When we return, we're around the regions with Regional Hub. Stay with us. Let's bring you a bit more stories, this time from across the regions. And as the fight against climate change continues to rage across the globe, Spanish ambassador to Ghana, Her Excellency Angel Losada, is urging partnerships and collaboration as essential in the fight against climate change in the world. According to him, addressing climate change issues is not only important, but also demands urgent action. The ambassador has also been urging government, civil society organizations, and other stakeholders to take climate change mitigation actions to limit greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. Christopher Amarko engaged him in Tamale during a Ghanaian Youth Summit on environmental sustainability and green jobs. Let's get a bit more in terms of the details from Chris. And Chris, let's talk. What urgent actions are being mooted by the Spanish ambassador in realizing these ideas that he's proposing?
Actually been indicating that it is very imperative for government and stakeholders, including CSOs and non-governmental organizations, to collaborate to ensuring that issues of climate change are given the relevant attention. You remember that just last year, the dry spell that swept across some 7 or 8 regions in the northern and southern belt actually affected food production. So he's been given instances where if we are not careful as a country and we want to deal with issues of climate change without any seriousness, it is going to, in the long run, affect the country. So he's been urging government and other key stakeholders and partners to collaborate so that they will tailor some roadmap as to how to deal with issues of climate change. Resources availability is one key issue that he's talked about. Education is also another, and the need for people to take urgent steps to ensuring that issues of climate change is given the needed attention. Let's take a listen to what the Spanish ambassador has been saying.
Basically, at this point, I think that we together we can do something very important, which is advocacy. We have to be together as countries, as governments, as states, as civil society, to say this is an important issue. We have to deal with it all together, and we have to deal it now, because it's not only important, but it is an urgent issue, climate change and the consequences, and to address the consequences at all levels, from communities, the situation of the seas, for tourism, for economies. Everything is at stake regarding climate change. So we have to work together, all together, to solve this problem and to address this problem. I think that this is the reason.
That's Angel Losada. Chris, thank you very much. We'll have to leave it here because of time. Christopher Marco is my colleague in the northern and Savannah regions for us. Now, following a year of concerning injury reports, the Ghana Chamber of Mines has tasked large-scale mining firms to extend safety protocols beyond the mine gates to surrounding communities. This strategic shift aims to build a more resilient safety net and limit collateral damage when disasters occur.
Data from the Chamber of Mines reveals a complex picture for 2024. While fatal incidents in large-scale mines fell by almost 43%, this progress was undermined by a sharp 62% increase in serious injuries, those resulting in more than 2 weeks of lost work. Minor first aid cases also rose from 162 to 172. A key driver of this trend, according to the Chamber, remains persistent contractor-related accidents. In response, the industry is deploying a new proactive strategy that moves safety beyond the perimeter fence.
In our industry, we say safety is number one, it's our priority, it's our first value. If we can't mine safely, then we'll not mine at all. So the idea is that we have best practices as far as safety is concerned. We want to bring these same practices within our host communities. So whatever we are doing, we can also pass on that skill, that knowledge, again to the members of our host communities, as much as we improve upon our own practices.
This community-focused approach was showcased at the National Intermines First Aid and Safety Competition, where teams from major mining firms competed alongside teams from their host communities. The event simulated real-world emergencies, from deep underground collapse to accident on village roads, testing coordinated response efforts.
We also want to make sure that we equip them with very basic first aid knowledge, so that should they have any situations in their homes, they will be able to deal with it. That is the reason why we have gone a step ahead to get people from the various communities to be part of the community team, so that they would go back and then spread this knowledge.
This is critical in mining towns where industrial tracks and residents share the same road network. Echoing this need, the district chief executive for Amansia South called for an immediate intensification of public safety campaigns.
As a mining community, there are a whole lot of our citizens who are engaged in mining. And I think it is in the right direction that some of these education should be given to our people so that they can take safety into consideration in the course of their work.
The industry is now betting that this grassroots collaborative approach will be its strongest defense against future tragedies.
So a bit more stories. The John Evans at Mills Senior High School at Akumfi in the Central Region is in a state of disrepair. 10 years after its establishment, the school is struggling with inadequate infrastructure, poor facilities, and dwindling student enrollment. 450 out of the 600 students posted under the computer placement system failed to enroll due to the lack of a boarding facility.
10 years ago, in September 2015, the John Evans Mills Senior High School opened its doors to Akumfi as the first CE block established under the government's educational infrastructure project. But today, the school tells a different story, one of a neglect and pressing need. Roofs are peeling off, walls are not available, and the compound remain unfenced, leaving students vulnerable to intruders. The school also lacks a boarding facility, forcing students to commute from neighboring communities, some as far as 6 kilometers away. Transportation remains another major challenge. The school relies on a single bus, and whenever it breaks down, academic work comes to a standstill. The headmaster for the school, Francis Atu Davis, says the situation has severely affected students' enrollment.
They go into town, they will have to go and pay for rent. They will have to commute using the bus or commercial vehicle, and they still have to pay. And many of the parents cannot afford. In fact, they complain a lot. So it encourages absenteeism, especially those who are working. You look like the distance, 1 hour walk in, 1 hour walk out. So they come Monday, Tuesday. By Thursday, they are tired, and they'll have to rest to come the next Monday.
To mark its 10th anniversary, stakeholders are appealing to government and local authorities for urgent intervention. The Akumfi District Director of Education, Mary Kafui, has called on traditional leaders and community members to support the school's development.
Let us ensure that J.E.A. Mills Senior High remains a model of excellence in our district and beyond.
Meanwhile, the governing council chairman of the National Teaching Council, Kwame Alovi, expressed deep concern over the school's plight.
A boarding status for the school with facilities that will augment the teaching and learning in the school that befits the status of John Evans Mills as a former president of the Republic.
As the John Evans Mills Senior High School marks a decade of existence, hopes remain high that renewed attention and support will restore the late president's vision for quality education in his hometown. Stakeholders say unless urgent steps are taken, the school's challenges could worsen further, discouraging enrollment and undermining the future of hundreds of students in the Akumfi area.
Now, in recent months, the Gine-Gine-Drobo stretch has emerged as a perilous corridor for motorists, plagued by a rising tide of armed robbery incidents. Concerned drivers and residents laments the alarming security predicament that has rendered the once busy route a treacherous passage. A report by Claude Kumiebisa.
The Brekum-Drobo Road, historically a vital thoroughfare, has fallen victim to years of neglect and inadequate security measures. With declining infrastructural support, it has become an attractive target for criminals who exploit the road's deteriorating condition to execute brazen attacks on unsuspecting travelers. For me, I will never ply this road when it's past 4 p.m. because that is when the armed robbers operate. So I will not come for them to collect my money. We are attacked, especially on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, which are market days. For 2 weeks now, we've been attacked continuously. Because of this, we refuse to use this road at certain times to avoid being robbed. Recognizing the gravity of the situation, local officials are taking decisive action. Dixon J.E.A, the Member of Parliament for Brekum West, has collaborated with security councils from both Brekum West and Jama South to implement road checks aimed at bolstering security along the Gini-Drobo corridor.
One of the major contributory factors of the surge of armed robbery cases is the nature of the road. The poor, deplorable state facilitates armed robbing activities. Commuters are spending longer hours on this road.
In a reassuring response to the community's growing anxiety, Siata Watara, the municipal chief executive for Jama South, has vowed that enhanced security measures will be instituted to protect residents and commuters.
Monday is a market day for Sampa, and Tuesday too is a market day for Drobo, Jama South. These are the days that they normally engage in such activities. So I've empowered my police commander, I've given him resources, that is, I've provided vehicle and fuel sometimes so that they do some escorts.
Let's move away from that. The National Disaster Management Organization, NADMO, says it's working in collaboration with the Kintampo North Municipal Assembly in providing essential relief items to the displaced and affected residents of the Gulumpe community.
Intervention is part of a concerted effort to restore stability and economic activity following a violent conflict that gripped the town. The clash rooted in tensions between two factions over the loading of charcoal erupted on Sunday, October 19. The violence resulted in 4 individuals sustaining severe wounds and critically led to close to 1,000 of residents fleeing the community for safety. The Ministry of Interior, acting on the advice of the National Security Council, has imposed a dusk-to-dawn curfew on Gulumpe Township and its environs effective Tuesday, October 21. The curfew includes several strict regulations intended to prevent further violence. The presentation made by NADMO and the Municipal Assembly is focused on addressing the immediate needs of residents whose livelihoods were disrupted and whose homes were left vacant after the mass exodus.
The NDC government has decided to bring this in to help alleviate the challenges or the suffering the people are going through as of now. So these are the things you are seeing here right now so that it can support our brothers and sisters who are currently in this dire situation. I can comfortably tell you that Gulumpe is calm and life has returned to normal.
The goal is to provide foundation for residents to return and begin process of building their lives and local economy. The delivery of relief items marks a crucial step in the community's journey toward full recovery from the devastating conflict. As it stands now, about 60% of residents who fled the area have returned to their homes to start life all over again. Belinda Tete, TV3 News, Gulumpe.
Let's talk about breast cancer before we leave the studio. And it remains a growing concern in Ghana. But what does it mean to receive comprehensive care for this disease, as Ghana has joined the rest of the world to intensify awareness of the disease this month My colleague Sarah Penkro has been exploring the journey of breast cancer patients in the country in this latest documentary, Ghana's Pink Ribbon, set to be premiered at 9 p.m. today. Here are excerpts.
It's been 3 long years for Joyce Maldima. 3 years of uncertainty, 3 years of active treatment, and 3 years without the quickest evidence of being feminine, her breasts.
The underwire in the bra came off, pressing down on the breast. So when I got home and I found out that it had actually come out from the fabric and was piercing down on the skin, you know. There was no wound, no opening or anything. After that, there was no pain, and so I thought that, oh, that would just go away. But the whole place became red, then it became black, then it became so hard. And then I realized that the breast was just growing bigger. I don't confidently mingle with people. I dress well, you don't even notice, but I've lost 2 of my breasts, and that alone in my head, it's enough for me to, most of the time, I choose places I want to go or socialize and all that. I'm okay with family, but when we have other people around, I'm not too okay.
24-year-old Rita is part of the younger generations diagnosed with breast cancer. Hers is an aggressive type.
It was fibroadenoma. I even searched for it, and it was like, before it would turn to cancer, maybe 2 to 3 years time before it can turn to cancer. But within, I think it was just in 3 months, 4 months time, and it just escalated. So I was surprised when the lump just got very big and everything was just turned to cancer.
And Ghana's Pink Ribbon airs a lot later this evening at 9 p.m. here on TV3. Make a date with Sarah Penkro. That's our bulletin for you this afternoon, which came to you from our studios here on the John Hammond Street. I am Mawuena Egbeta. Next on your television is the afternoon show. Many thanks for watching.